So again, we log into the combination platform at portal.combination.com with your login information. And today I will show you how to use CSS at the combination platform. However, you should already be familiar with CSS in general because this is not a deep dive how CSS works. Today I will show you how to use CSS at the combination platform. And to do that, we build upon a tutorial that we already made about paintables. So if you didn't look at that, take a look at it. I give you a link at the description below. And now let's step into this draft and open the configurator editor. So to start off easy, I'm gonna show you how to use inline CSS directly in the properties of the controls. Right here you see the controls. This is a tree and you just can drill down to the controls you like. Right now we go to the layer control. This is this one. And in here we want to change the background color. So I roll down here to the background color. And in here I can use any CSS function or value that I like. I could use static values like hex codes, the short or the long one, of course, something like this. I could also use CSS functions like red, green, blue, and alpha, something like this, and half transparent, looks like that. And I also can use number of colors like white, and that's what I want to do right now. Next is I want to go to a label. I could either click right here to the label that I'm looking for, or I go into the tree, and here I see this label. And this label I want to change the margin first. The margin is, I do it with 4 values. These are the top, the right, the bottom, and the left margin. So the top, then the right, the bottom, and the left. So I see that it works like this. I disable the flex, so I turn it to 0. And I make the width depending on the content. So fit content, like that. And to speed it up, I do the changes for other controls as well in a fast way. And now I show you how to use CSS classes and create CSS files. To use CSS files, you find up here the CSS styles tab. When you click on it, you see a list of all the CSS files and the content to it. So you just simply can add a next CSS file, you give it a name, CSS file, and simply paste the content. You also recognize that as soon as you have more than one files here, there's a summary up here, which is all files copied together. You cannot change it because you can make changes down here, but you see everything all together. When you take a closer look at the naming of this CSS selectors, then for instance right here you have this configurator data view, and up here you have a documentation. So when you click on that, you find a very good description of how the different parts of controls are named. Here, for instance, you find control label or buttons, text box, everything. And down here you find the data view, and here is the configurator data view, this naming here. And you can address it right here and change some properties just as you like. So the next thing that we could do is, for instance, I have down here this wrapper layer. So in this wrapper layer, we create a border radius and a box shadow. So I want to use this for this whole layer right here. So I click on that. And to assign this class, there's a property called CSS class, and I just type in the class name, wrapper layer. And now look closely, the edges now are round, and there's also a shadow. You see it a little bit better if you change the background to, let's say, gray. Then you see that there's a shadow around. All this is done by this CSS style down here, this wrapper layer here. The same thing you could do with the card button. So when I go to this button here and you give it card button, then the style of the button changes accordingly. And now that we have assigned the CSS class to a control, we can change the class and see how the control styles follow. For instance, here for this layer, you remember we added this CSS class wrapper layer. And now we can change this wrapper layer. We have right here. And you remember we had an 8-pixel radius. If we make it bigger and then press Shift Enter, then we have a sneak. So it becomes transparent and you see how the styles in the backend follow. You see a big radius. If you make it smaller again, Shift Enter, hold the Shift key, and you see how everything follows accordingly. This is a very handy thing when you want to play around with styles and you don't want to switch back and forth all the time. Just hold the Shift key, press Enter, and you see through it. And another nice feature is that the system helps you a little bit with the naming. So when you start to type and you don't know what possibilities you have, just press the Control key with the space and the system gives you some options that you can pick from. A nice feature. And that's already it for this tutorial. But also make sure that you follow the expert tutorial where we dig into way deeper and way more possibilities with CSS.